Hey everyone, ready to find work that really lights you up, like not just a job, but something you were born to do.
Yeah, that's the dream, right?
Totally. Well, we did a deep dive into Born for This by Chris Guillebeau.
Awesome book.
So many eye-opening bits, we can't wait to share them.
Yeah, this should be fun. One of the coolest things is how Guillebeau throws out that whole idea of a single true calling.
Uh-huh. The one perfect job, yeah.
Right, and instead he's all about the career as a journey, like
Hmm.
with all its twists and turns.
Yeah, I get stuck in that thinking sometimes too. Like, is this the right job? But this book is more about creating a path that's totally unique to you and being open to those unexpected, well, detours.
Totally. He even uses the circus as an example, which I love.
The circus, okay, I'm intrigued.
So imagine you've always dreamed of running away to join the circus.
Right, the glamour, the excitement.
Exactly. But then you get there and realize mucking out elephant stalls wasn't quite what you had in mind.
Huh, yeah, maybe not so glamorous.
So does that mean giving up on the whole dream entirely?
Well, I guess it depends, right?
Maybe you pivot to something else within that world. Like instead of performing, maybe you sell tickets or design costumes, who knows?
Right, you find your niche.
The point is, each step adds to your overall journey. Even if it seems like a sidetrack, it's all part of figuring out what you really enjoy.
Makes you think of all those actors who waited tables or did commercials forever before they got their big break.
Exactly.
It's less about having this grandmaster plan and more about being open to the opportunities as they come up.
100%.
So how do we even figure out where those opportunities might lead? Like, how do we define our ideal work?
Well, Guillebeau has this concept. It's called the job lottery wish list.
Oh, I like that. The job lottery.
Right. It's about getting super clear on what you actually want your work life to look like.
So it's more than just saying, like, I want to be a writer or I want to work with animals.
Way more. You got to go deeper. Think about what kind of environment do you thrive in? A bustling office, quiet studio? Do you need a flexible schedule? How much autonomy do you need?
Oh, I see. So many factors.
And it's about finding that sweet spot between what you enjoy, but also what's going to provide you with, financial stability.
Right, get pay the bill. So it's like you're designing your dream job
Yeah.
from scratch. Pretty cool.
Totally.
But I imagine even when you have a clear vision, fear can still hold us back.
Oh, for sure. Fear is a big one.
How does Guillebeau address that?
One technique he suggests is actually quite simple. Write down your fears.
Oh, really? Just write them down.
Yeah, often just putting them on paper can help you see them more objectively. You might realize some are totally unfounded, or the risk is way smaller than you imagined.
Yeah. Sometimes my fears seem huge in my head,
Right.
but if I wrote them out,
Hmm.
maybe not so scary.
Exactly. And another thing Guillebeau talks about is the danger of FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Oh, FOMO. Yeah, that's a real struggle.
We make decisions based on what we think we should be doing, even if it doesn't feel right, like taking a job just because it's prestigious,
Uh-huh. Been there.
but the environment's toxic.
Totally. Good reminder to trust your gut. Even if it means saying no to something that seems like the safe choice.
Absolutely. Trust your gut is key.
Mm.
But how do we get to a point where we feel confident enough to take those risks?
Yeah, good question.
It's about building a safety net, creating a foundation so you can take leaps of faith with a little more confidence.
Okay, so what does that look like, practically speaking?
It could be a lot of things. Having a strong network of friends and family, diversifying your income streams, building up an emergency fund.
Makes sense.
That kind of stuff can give you the freedom to be bolder in your choices.
It's like if you're rock climbing, having that safety harness,
Mm.
it doesn't eliminate the risk, but you got that extra layer of security.
Perfect analogy.
So we've tackled the fears, we've defined what we want our work to look like, ideally, but how do we translate that into action?
This is where Guillebeau's 100 People project comes in.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Tell me more.
So it's about identifying a skill you have, something people often ask you for help with. Then you offer free consultations to 100 people in your network.
So like if I'm always giving my friends relationship advice,
Exactly.
I could offer like free coaching sessions.
Boom! You're recognizing the value you already bring.
So this 100 People project, it's about getting feedback, building your skills, maybe even attracting clients down the
You
line.
got it.
It's taking action, even in small steps.
I love that.
And speaking of action, Guillebeau also encourages us to think beyond our formal education. Like, make a list of all your skills, not just the resume stuff.
Okay. You mean like being super organized or good at fixing tech issues?
Exactly. Things we might take for granted. Those skills could be incredibly valuable to others. It's about finding the overlap.
I see. So instead of trying to fit ourselves into those existing job descriptions, we can actually create opportunities. And speaking of creating opportunities, he has a whole section on inventing your own job.
Yeah, that just sounds so empowering. Like you don't have to wait for someone to give you permission to do the work you love.
Exactly. It's about taking control, shaping your career to fit you. Guillebeau uses this example of Tony Bacigalupo. He created this role, mayor of his co-working space.
Mayor. Okay, I'm picturing someone with a sash greeting newcomers.
Huh. Maybe not quite. But Tony saw a need, someone to build community, make it welcoming, and he stepped up. He designed that role based on his strengths.
That's brilliant. So, do we just like walk into our boss's office and say, hey, I have an idea for a new position?
Well, it's a little more nuanced than that. Guillebeau suggests, starting by identifying a problem, a need within your company or even an industry you're interested in.
Okay, so find a problem first.
Then think about how your skills could address that. You're basically making a proposal for a position that doesn't exist yet.
I see, showing how it benefits everyone.
Exactly. You're being proactive, thinking outside the box.
Instead of waiting for that job description, you're creating it. It's like being an entrepreneur, but within your existing organization.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of entrepreneurship, Born for This also dives into side hustles.
Ah, the side hustle. It's everywhere these days. I admit, it does feel less intimidating than, like, quitting your job and going all in.
Right. That's the beauty of it. You test the waters, build skills, maybe even generate some income without giving up that security.
So, like dipping your toes in before you jump in the pool.
Exactly. Now, let's say you have a vague idea for a side hustle. Where do you start?
Yeah, that's always the question.
Guillebeau stresses being systematic. Don't just chase any random idea. He has you ask specific questions. What problem are you solving? Who's your audience? Startup costs, all that.
So turning that fuzzy dream into a concrete plan with actual steps.
You got it. And by starting small, you learn as you go. Minimize your risks.
Makes sense. It's less about having it all figured out perfectly from day one.
Right, more about experimenting, iterating, like building a prototype.
You don't need to launch the perfect product right away.
Nope. Start basic, get feedback, refine it over time. That takes the pressure off, right? You don't need to be this super polished, experienced entrepreneur to get started.
Yeah, that's really reassuring. So we've talked about inventing jobs, side hustles. What about for someone who's drawn to creative work? Like, how do they make a living from their art?
Guillebeau has a whole section on that. He talks about becoming your own agent.
Okay, interesting.
He points out that in the past, artists, writers, musicians, they relied on those gatekeepers, publishers, labels, galleries.
It was all about getting discovered by the right person.
Exactly. But today, you can connect directly with your audience, build your own platform.
So it's less about waiting for permission and more about creating your own opportunities.
Exactly. It does take hustle, though, and a willingness to learn new skills, marketing, building an online presence, that kind of thing.
Sure, it's not a magic bullet, but the rewards are huge, right?
Absolutely. Freedom, control. You're creating a career that aligns with your vision.
That's so inspiring. So we've covered inventing your own job, side hustles, being your own agent. It's amazing how Born for This empowers us to create fulfilling work, even within these traditional structures. But what about people who don't want to start a business or invent a job title? Can they still find that spark?
That's a great question. And I think this is where Guillebeau's idea of work shifting comes in, embracing multiple passions.
I think it's something a lot of us can relate to, like having all these different passions and wondering how to, I don't know, juggle them all.
Right, you don't have to just pick one thing and be done. That's where work shifting is so cool. It's about intentionally switching between projects or even roles to align with, different seasons of your life.
Yeah, because what we're interested in changes over time.
Yeah.
Our priorities shift. Our work should reflect that.
Totally. It's like having this portfolio of skills and interests that you can tap into at different times.
I like that, the portfolio idea.
Guillebeau has some great examples of it in action. Like he talks about someone who might be a boxing trainer in the afternoons, but then in the evenings, they offer relationship coaching.
Wow, that's quite a combo.
Yeah.
But it shows how you can weave those passions together.
Exactly. And it's not just about different jobs or skills even. Work shifting can also apply to different life stages,
Oh, right. Makes sense.
Like maybe when you're raising kids, you want that stable 9 to 5, but once they're older, you shift to something more flexible, maybe freelance work.
So it's adapting your work to fit your needs at that moment.
Exactly. And I think for a lot of people who struggle with work-life balance, this makes it seem less like a trade-off, and more like an ongoing evolution.
Yeah, I like that. It's not about finding this perfect balance once and for all.
It's a journey. And that ties back to Guillebeau's whole point about careers being journeys, not destinations. You got to be open to change, explore different paths along the way.
Which can be scary, but also exciting. It takes the pressure off having to have it all figured out right now.
So much pressure. This whole conversation has been so eye-opening. Born for This really makes you rethink those old career rules. What stands out to you, like the most impactful takeaway?
I think for me, it's that feeling of empowerment. Guillebeau isn't just giving us inspiration, he's actually giving us practical strategies.
Yes, to take control.
To design work that fits our values.
Totally. It's about ditching that passive job search and becoming like the architect of your own destiny. And the cool thing is, there's no one right way to do it.
Exactly. Your path can be as unique as you are.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you'd want listeners to take away from Born for This?
I hope they feel inspired to create work that truly lights them up, recognizing that we all have these unique gifts, and it's up to us to find ways to share them.
It's about ditching those limiting beliefs. What work should be. Who knows, maybe some of our listeners will go invent their own dream jobs.
I hope so. And even if not, maybe they'll find a way to weave in a passion project or explore a skill they've been curious about.
This book gave us a lot to think about. So to our listeners, if you're feeling stuck or just want to explore new possibilities, definitely check out Born for This.
Might spark a revolution in your work life. Who knows?
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into a topic that'll spark your curiosity.